Greetings, welcome back to PinkOddBird. Today we are here to pick up where we left off on Arlene's book, which, if you remember in the last video, we pretty much put her ephemera in 2 of the 3 signatures. I did the 3rd one off camera. So today we're going to pick up by building the cover for her book, and this is a large book. If you do remember me saying that her original album was about this exact same size, so I wanted to make it the same size. To do that, I'm just getting started with a couple of pieces of chipboard here, and since this is a really large book, I wanted the book to have some really good structure and integrity. So instead of just using one piece of chipboard, I'm doubling up the layers here for both covers and the spine. So that is how we are going to get started on today's cover, and I have done this process several times on my channel before, so if you have any questions, definitely leave me a comment down in the comment section down below and I will get back to you. So after you get the first front panel done, then you just want to repeat the same steps on the back panel, and then of course we're going to have to get our spine figured out. So to do that, I always have said that I like to take my signatures and then grab my ruler and kind of see, just eyeball it, see where the signatures are, consider how much space you want to leave for the book to have things added into it or not, and then you would get a good estimate on how big your spine needs to be. So cut it down to size and glue these together. Alright, so if you remember previously, I used the same piece of already paid for, ready to recycle piece of Tyvek that I received in some Happy Mail, and so instead of throwing it in the recycle bin, I'm going to upcycle it and use it as the little binding agents for my cover pieces here. And so if you don't have Tyvek that's either upcycled like this, where it's already been used, or brand new from the store, then you can also use just paper. Use a cardstock is totally fine, or you can also use duct tape, which I have used duct tape before for this part of the process in the past. So, you know, don't feel obligated that you have to use everything that I'm using exactly here. You know, this is just a map, if you will, and you're free to modify this as you wish. And even though this one is pretty beat up, it doesn't have any impact on the integrity of how well it's going to hold these 2 covers and spine together. So I'm just gluing everything all down, and I'm starting with adding the spine to one cover, and I like to use my ruler for this to make sure that I'm putting the chipboard pieces level, and then I flip it over, and I really like to burnish that down and then just repeat the same thing on the other side. The next thing I like to do is just wrap this in some cardstock. You can use scraps, you can use a new piece of cardstock, you can use old scrapbook paper, anything that you really want that's a little bit sturdy so that we can wrap this chipboard cover. And since this book is large, I'm going to have to use 2 pieces of my cardstock to kind of make sure that it can wrap around the top of the book, because I like to go over the edge. I mean, it's exactly the same height, so if that doesn't bother you, then you can just use, you know, one sheet that's exactly the same height as the book, but I want it to wrap over the top and the bottom, so I'm using an 8.5 by 11 sheet for this little section. Then I'm going to cut a piece of another 8.5 by 11, a little bit smaller, and then just put that as the bottom half, and then fold the flaps over the edges of the book. And so I know some of you might be wondering if this book is going to be for sale or not. I haven't really decided, but I have been thinking about it a lot, like a whole lot, because I I don't know why I feel so sad for the fact that nobody wanted to keep her stuff, and I feel really attached to this book. And so if I do put it up for sale, I want it to go to someone who's really going to care for it and love it, maybe use it or at least look at it, share her story. As much as I am here on my channel, someone else can love it just the same, you know? And I'm just worried that maybe nobody loves this book as much as I do. So I'm not sure if I should keep it or let it go. I don't really know yet. But when we come back and do the final flip through, I will probably have the answer to that. So stay tuned. So now that our cover's all built, I always like to put the signature in, or the signatures in, to see how it looks and make sure I've got, you know, room, how squishy is it, and it looks perfect. So we're ready for the next phase, which is putting some fabric on the cover. So I've chosen this really pretty floral fabric. I love it because it's so vibrant, and I don't know, I just thought it would be perfect for Arlene's book. So when I go in and add the fabric, I like to, obviously you want to make sure first there's enough fabric to cover the whole book. Because if you don't make sure of that at first, you might end up with a piece of fabric that's too small, and then you're going to have to improvise something new. So I like to do this in segments. I will start in the middle where I have my book board laid in the very center of the fabric. And then from here, all I really do is, you know, add glue in the center, and then I flip the whole book over, add glue to one side, and then I like to put the fabric down and kind of press it down with my hand, then turn the book over, and then do the same thing to the other side. So glue, fabric, press, and then flip, and then just repeat: glue, fabric, press, flip. And then you just repeat this until you have made it all the way across the entire book with fabric. All right, so moving on here, I am not telling you that you have to cut corners to get ahead in life, but you absolutely will have to cut corners to get ahead in the process of putting your book together. So you guys want to make sure you cut those corners on this fabric and leave enough so that you have enough to tuck in the edges when we get ready to fold in the sides. So I'm just going to go through and start from the bottoms here and glue those down, and then I will go through and do the edges and make sure those fabric corners are tucked in nice and neat. Now, once we've gotten this third side done, we're just going to repeat the process until all four sides of this book are completely wrapped nicely and neatly with our fabric. And then the next step I will have to do off camera, because it is a course that I have taken by Nick the Booksmith for how to do the hidden binding. So unfortunately, I will have to cut it here, but I will be back with the next step. So I've got all my signatures sewn in, and while that's sitting aside drying for a little bit, I'm going to cut down the inside pages for the inside covers of the books. So since it is a large book, I'm just going to use my 12 by 12 paper and then cut them down until they're the right size. And if you have it slightly off, you can always continue to trim it down little by little until it's exactly the right size that you want it to be, and then just pop those down right on the cover. Okay, sweet. We're almost there, everyone. So the last thing that I decided that I would do is try and see if I can figure out something on the cover of this book, because I want something here, but I'm not sure what. And so as you can see here, I'm going to be messing around with this collage for a good little while until I finally find something that is going to be aesthetically pleasing to my eyes. So I hope you will enjoy this little bit of the process. Also, what you'll notice is I actually had to trim this part down a lot because I started thinking about it too much. And then when I finally was like, you know what, I'm just going to stop, because I'm doing what I always say, don't overthink it. So once I stopped overthinking it, I started making really good progress on this collage. And so I really, really love the way that it turns out in the end too. Excited! So you can see right when I get to this point here, I start slowing down a little because I felt like this collage needed to be lifted off of the background. And so I found this scrap in my scrap box of black cardstock, and I'm like, this is what this piece of black cardstock has probably been sitting in my scrap box forever waiting for. So this very moment. So I'm just going to trim it down, and then I'm going to distress it with my scissors. And if you distress it the way that I do with scissors, be careful because your scissors are sharp. And I take it over to my machine, add some textiles, add some flowers, and then I decide that I want to glue this down as a pocket on the front of the book so that there can be something tucked in behind the pocket on the front, because I think that would make a nice little dedication to the book. And that's really it. So I hope you all have enjoyed watching this process. If you have, don't forget to leave a thumbs up on the video, and please leave a comment down below letting me know what you think. And we'll be back soon to have the final flip through of this book of Arlene's, and that is going to wrap it up for me for now. Be sure to stay tuned because you never know what direction this odd flock of ours is heading into. And until next time, toodaloo.